Okay, it seems as if Terence Crawford has kind of called out Errol Spence Jr. There is an article that came out on TMZ Sports entitled, Terence Crawford, I want Errol Spence, gotta prove I'm number one. That it will come as a relief to many Terence Crawford fans that I know that will shut me up, because I always say Terence Crawford has never called out Errol Spence Jr. So it appears from the way that this article is written that that is the case, and that is exciting to hear. I certainly hope that the fight happens. As we know, Terence Crawford has a interesting matchup coming up with Amir Khan in a couple weeks. Really looking forward to that. Even with this TMZ article is starting to show that maybe the word is starting to get out there and the promotion's going to pick up, and I hope the fight does really well. Let me tell you what Terence Crawford said, and let me give you my opinion on what Terence Crawford said specifically. But before I do that, I want to welcome subscribers back to the channel. If you are not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And after you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also when we do our live streams Monday through Friday. Start time is typically between 10:30 a.m. and 10:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. And to longtime subscribers and people that constantly support the channel, I appreciate you very much. Check out the Patreon. We've got a lot of good stuff going over there. And we will be starting to hold our Patreon live streams now that we have the number of patrons that we're looking to get to before we started. So now on to Terence Crawford. This is what is said in the article. He says, I want the fight. Let me just say that right now. Just to show the world I'm the best in the welterweight division. I feel confident matching up with anybody. I can box, I can bang, I can switch, I can punch. I'm not slow. So, who would he? When I first read this, I thought maybe this was going to be a little bit of a shot at Mikey Garcia, because Mikey Garcia, he can box, he can bang. I guess he didn't do it too much. Not really seen him switch a lot. He can punch, but he is definitely slow. Now, is that really a call out? I don't know, because this is the editorialization of the TMZ. He didn't actually say the words, I want to fight Errol Spence, but for the heck of it, I'll give him credit for that, man. I'm telling you though, this is my thought. This fight, again, I've said this before about Terence Crawford, that this fight with Amir Khan will tell me a little bit more about what will happen with him and the other welterweights. I did a video yesterday where Amir Khan highlighted the differences between his resume and Terence Crawford's resume and the quality of fighters that he's fought. I don't know if Amir Khan at this stage in his career is really like a high level. I mean, he's a big name to get on your record, but I don't necessarily know, seeing as he's, that he's kind of well known as a Glass Joe. Is the modern day Glass Joe, non-video version of Glass Joe. If y'all remember Glass Joe from Tyson's Punch Out, the first guy that you fought, and as soon as you touched him on his chin, he fell apart. That's kind of, where Amir Khan his reputation is right now in the boxing world. But I do believe that he might be able to give Terence Crawford some problems, because despite that glass jaw, Amir Khan is a very, very good boxer. I do believe he's Olympic silver medalist. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section, but I think that he won an Olympic silver medal. But at the very least, he was a very, very good amateur, and that tells you that he is you're gonna have to do something to get to that chin. Now, and I think the only times he's ever lost, I think he lost one to Lamont Peterson, and that the losses to Lamont Peterson, I think, came primarily because he was getting points deducted for shoving Lamont Peterson back with two hands and then punching, which was kind of odd for that fight. But, you know, he's going to be somebody to overcome. I always feel, though, like for right now, man, I think it's just going to be difficult on Terence Crawford with Errol Spence because of Errol, not because of the size, but because of Errol Spence's boxing level, the level of his boxing skill, and the fact that he is so active, so consistent, puts so much pressure on you, and just the way that I see Terence Crawford fight, and I've said this in other live streams, so people, and this is something that I'm probably going to say, I will see if I say it after the Amir Khan fight, because it's always a case where, you know, the last you've seen is at the front of your mind. So the last guy that I saw fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford is Errol Spence. So, you know, what he's doing is the freshest in my mind. But the fact that he just has so much pressure, he throws so many punches. He threw 1,000 punches against Mikey Garcia. Activity is a good way to offset some of the strengths that Terence Crawford has. And I think that the biggest strength that Terence Crawford has, aside from speed and power and his ability to switch from southpaw to orthodox, which honestly I don't think he does very much. He can switch to orthodox, but he doesn't do it a lot. I think his biggest strength is his intelligence and his ability to read what you're going to do, set you up with feints for the first couple rounds, figure out what your tendencies are. And once he figures out what your tendencies are, then he has the ability to go to town on you. I don't know if Errol Spence Jr. is going to give him enough time in any portion of the fight for him to do that, for him to process like that. Because Errol Spence isn't going now. He of course he will go with some feints, but you're not going to get Errol Spence Jr. to stand there with his hands in his pockets for several minutes, or for considerable portions of a round, and just have him jerking around every time you move your hand to the left, move your hand to the right, pivot your shoulder left, pivot your shoulder right, throw a fake jab, throw a half-hearted jab, throw a slow right cross, throw a left hook, or change that around. Left hook for the southpaw. He's going to be busy. He's going to be throwing punches and attacking you that whole time. So I'm not sure. I haven't seen Terence Crawford in with that type of fighter, that type of pressure fighter. I don't think there's a lot of southpaw pressure fighters like that either. And then of course there is the southpaw. There's a southpaw stance thing. Now, I've seen Terence Crawford fight some southpaws. I actually think that Yuriokis Gamboa, who is orthodox, who's listed as orthodox, spent the best part of that fight with Terence Crawford in the southpaw stance. And it's once he stopped fighting southpaw and went to orthodox that kind of things started going downhill for him. So, anyway, we'll see. Hopefully we'll see what happens. Of course, I say this because I think that the biggest roadblock to this fight is not the desire of Terence Crawford, and it's not the desire of Errol Spence Jr. or the lack of desire. It's going to be whether or not Bob Arum is willing to step up and make that fight. Bob Arum is, in my opinion, is like the anti-Don King. When Don King was a promoter, he would throw fighters to the wolves. His fight cards were very, very stacked, and he was always trying to make the biggest fight cards that were possible. That's not what I see from Bob Arum. I see Bob Arum as being somebody that tries to sell the anticipation of the fight and will string that out for several fights. So I still believe, that if this fight is going to happen with Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, it's going to happen in 2020. And honestly, man, I don't have any real big problem with that, because the next fight that Errol Spence Jr. has is going to be a unification fight with Sean Porter. And I think that in this whole conversation about Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, that Sean Porter is underestimated. And I think that Keith Thurman is underestimated as well. His fight back against, God, man, I'm having a hard time remembering what the guy's name was. Wasn't Luis Collazo, whoever it was that his last fight was. That was his first fight back after 2 years. So hopefully he went back to the drawing board, gets his strength, getting his conditioning up, and can return to form. And then you've got 4 guys that have belts at the welterweight division. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts on Terence Crawford. Congratulations on Terence Crawford for calling out Errol Spence, though. And support the fight that's coming up in a couple weeks. And with that, I'm out.